is something that he wishes to do.
Can you help us just clarify what his position then a little more is on deficit reduction? Like you're saying, McCarthy, hey, give us your plan. Is your plan, the president has sort of let out dribs and drabs of his views here and there. So just so I understand correctly, he is opposed to any cuts to Medicare and Social Security, including changes to eligibility. He's open to other spending reductions over the medium term, including potentially defense?
I want to be very careful here because what the president has been very clear about is what is their plan. He wants to see their plan as it relates to the budget, right? So the president's going to put out his budget on March 9th. You guys will all get to see that. And so we want to see what their plan is. I'm not going to get ahead of that particular piece when it comes to the budget. But of course the president's going to protect the Medicare, right, for Americans. Of course the president's going to do everything that he can to protect Social Security. And when it comes to holding those two programs hostage, the president's going to call that out and say that we should not be holding those two programs hostage on something that is the basic duty of Congress, which is to lift the debt ceiling, something that they should be able to do because it is their constitutional duty.
Right, you're trying to put the debt ceiling aside, and I hear you. Does he want a fiscal reform deal aside from that? Like, does the president want a deal?
What he wants to see, what are they putting forth? What is their idea of dealing with fiscal, right? Fiscal priorities. What does that look like for them? So that's what he's going to ask them for, which is what we did in our memo yesterday. He wants to see what is it that they're putting forward.
Trying to ask what it is you're putting forward. Is this like revenue is part of that mix as well? Will we talk to Kevin McCarthy about, hey, these are the taxes we want, but we can shrink the deficit that way too?
We want to see, we have been very clear when it comes to Medicare, when it comes to Social Security, right? That should be protected. We're going to continue to fight for that. And we've been very clear when it comes to the debt limit, it should be done without conditions. We've been very clear, and we should not hold those two programs and others, not just that, hostage, right? Been very, very clear about that. On March 9th, the president's going to put forth his budget. You're going to see how he sees the budget moving forward in this fiscal year, and so I'll leave it there. And then again, as I said in the memo, you guys read it from Brian Deese and others, that we want to see what their plan is.
And with the public health emergency, just to be clear, is it the administration's plan to lift Title 42 on May 11th when the public health emergency underpinning it is lifted?
So, look, I just want to be very clear on this part too, because I know this question has come up, and I do want to do a little bit of a step back here. The CDC said in April that the Title 42 should lift, but the courts have, as you all know, required us to keep it in place. And so that's kind of where we are. So we do not know when or what the courts will rule, but we must comply with that order. And so we're going to comply with that. As it relates to what exactly is going to happen, because it is a court matter, a court order, that is something that DOJ is dealing with at this time.
Even if you lift the emergency, if the court order hasn't been lifted, you're going to keep 42 in place?
So here's what we were trying to do, and I'll explain like our thinking here. So what House Republicans were trying to do is they were trying to really barrel toward abruptly and immediately ending Title 42. And what we are trying to do was to make sure that there was an orderly process to manage this manage the situation at the border in a way that was, again, orderly and effective. And what they wanted to do is to end something overnight, which would have created chaos. And so that's why we have been very clear about doing this when it comes to Title 42, doing this in a safe and orderly way, and coming up, we are putting forward alternative priorities, alternative ways to dealing with the border, and so that's why we moved in that way. That's why we were very clear about what we're trying to do these next couple of months. Now, as you're asking me about the date, if it's going to happen or not on that particular date, again, there's a court order in place that, as you know, that was very clear that DOJ is taking on, and so I would refer